Welcome to our final presentation for Chapter 1 for Business 121, Financial Planning and Money Management. Did you go through those future value calculations? Did you? Make sure you've done them twice for both of the worksheets. Listen to the commentary, look at the answer key. Yes, they will be on the exam. Let's now finish up Chapter 1 by discussing the financial aspects of career planning. Because most people think that's the most important financial decision you're going to make in your life, but it isn't. We'll discuss that too. Starting on slide number 40, do you have a job or do you have a career? Now, when I first was looking through this, our book makes a big distinction, and others talking about the difference between a job and a career. I thought it was fairly elitist, because I don't know about you, but for me, any job is a good job. But the book says, no, a job is an employment position obtained mainly to earn money without regard for interest or opportunities for advancement. A career is a commitment to a profession that requires continued training and offers a clear path for occupational growth. And, I just had a hard time with this until one of the counselors, and I can't remember which one, I should send a global email to them and say, who told me this so I can give you credit? She said, it was a woman, a job is something you do for a paycheck. A career is something you do regardless of the paycheck, which I like a whole lot better than the first comparison and contrast. Because the idea is, this is a job. I'm doing it because I need the money. This is a career. I'm doing it because I love it. Okay, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. But as we look on slide number 41, is it true that the more education we have in general, the greater our income? In general, no guarantees, but notice the difference between a high school graduate and an associate's degree, and then a bachelor's degree, a master's, and a doctorate, and a professional degree, I think means JD, which is a lawyer's degree, or MD, which is a medical doctor's degree. It is true you're going to make more money in general, but not always the case. Now, I got this data from the U.S. Census Bureau, their 2010, their latest census. If anybody can find other data, it's not easy to find because I think it's not easy to quantify. There's just so many people. And it's not always the case that you're going to make more money just because you have education, more education. It's true in general, but hey, it's not a guarantee. And in my opinion and others, too much emphasis is placed on the amount of money you're going to get when you get your ticket, when you get your degree. Whereas it used to be the emphasis was on making you a better citizen, a better person, somebody who's more able to think critically and see through appearances, which is something sorely lacking in today's society, if you ask me. I remember a ancient saying from the Buddhist tradition that the greatest wisdom is seeing through appearances. That's pretty keen, and that's what we hope many of us in the educational field to teach you how to do, to think critically and see through appearances. Slide number 42. Where will the jobs be? Well, are they going to be in manufacturing? No. It's not because manufacturing is not important. It's just that manufacturing is undergoing the same kind of loss of jobs that happened when we went from an agrarian society, where most people worked on the fields, to an industrial society. And now we're moving into another phase of civilization, which some people call the information age. So it's just not true that there's jobs still there, but the more and more they're being done by automation. In fact, there's a joke about the factory of the future. We'll have two employees, a man and a dog. The man's job will be to feed the dog, and the dog's job will be to keep people from touching the machinery. And it's a joke, but it's true. There are companies now that have factories where no human hands touch the products from start to finish. Figure that one out. You may have heard of them. You may have heard of a company called Shimano. Shimano. Well, if you know anything about bicycling, you've heard the term, you've heard the name, the brand name, or fishing. They don't make bicycles, they make bicycle parts. Right? Virtually all the bikes you see, not all, the very high end might not have Shimano, but all the other bikes you see have Shimano parts. And no human hands touch the machinery. Canon, the very large camera and printer company and video, they have said that they will have their first completely automated factory by 2015, and they also said that nobody would lose their job. So we'll see if that happens. So here are where the jobs are going to be: in computer technology, in healthcare. Oh boy, we'll discuss healthcare in detail later on. Business services, social services, sales and retailing, hospitality, food services, management, human resources, education, financial services. Folks, I'm gonna give you one word. I know, it's a spoof on a movie that most of you have never seen, but one word. Listen up. Biotechnology. You bet, folks. And luckily for you, here in San Diego, we have a hotbed of biotech companies. And at Southwestern Community College, we have a 2-year biotechnology degree. Very, very cool. The biotech world, folks, is going to change the world in ways that we cannot even begin to imagine. It's going to make what the computer industry, what the telecommunication industry did, look tame. We know this is going to happen. Now, we don't know how. We don't know. We can imagine, but the fact is always much stranger and much more fantastic than the fiction. So we will see that happening in the next 20, 30 years. Yeah, oh yeah. And when you think about it, like, what are you talking about? Go back 20 years and the internet was around, but it hadn't really exploded on the scene yet. So think about the changes in the last 20 years and realize that they're going to be accelerated even more so into the future. But what do you want to be if you grow up? What is your career goal? That's something that no one but yourself can decide. Most people, before they've taken Business 121, believe that they must become a doctor or a lawyer or a high-powered executive to get paid to become wealthy. But what if you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a high-powered executive? What if you want to be a writer or a teacher or an artist? Do artists make money? If you make a lot of money, but most no. How about a janitor or a mechanic or a plumber? Well, this is where I take issue with the idea of a job. Yeah, I'm a janitor, I'm a mechanic, I'm a plumber. Hey, see what happens to technologically based civilization if people don't pick up the trash or if the sewers back up. In fact, there's a great little story about the brain surgeon who just relocated and got a job at this very, very exclusive, very, very prestigious university hospital. And she was trying to put her best foot forward, so she is hosting a dinner party Saturday night with all the muckety-mucks from the hospital. And Saturday afternoon, the downstairs bathroom toilet overflows. Oh boy, what a disaster. So she calls the 24-hour emergency plumber, who rushes right out, and not 5 minutes, he's got it fixed. He's got everything fixed. I mean, oh, she was so happy. She said, "Thank you so very much. You really saved the day. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Well, he gives her a bill for $250. And she looks at him and she says, excuse me, sir, I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but I'm a brain surgeon. I don't even make $250 in 5 minutes. And the janitor said, yeah, I know how it is. Neither did I when I was a brain surgeon. Okay. Can you become wealthy without doing what you love, even if it does not command a large salary? Well, as we saw, dear students, in the previous presentation, and if you did those future value exercises, the answer is yes, you can. The key is to set a goal for yourself and start investing early. And the truth is, folks, your career is not your most important financial decision you're going to make in this lifetime. What? But if your career is not your most important decision, Payano, what is? What is, on slide 44, your most important financial decision? Who you marry. And then subsequently divorce. Yeah. Marriage is grand. Divorce is more like 100 grand. Many of you younger millennials are going to say, what are you talking about, Payano? You can't be serious. Oh, yes, I am. And I want you to talk to people who are a little older than you, maybe a little wiser. And they may want to talk to you about it, or they may not. Oh, I'm not going to talk to you about the jerk or the witch or the evil ex-spouse. But divorce is one of the worst things that can happen to you, not only emotionally but financially. And people will sometimes, I told you this, they sometimes say, whoa, you don't want me to get married? No, that's not what I want, folks. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you shouldn't marry, but I want you to have your eyes wide open. When you're walking down the aisle, I want you to have these words ringing in your ear. This is the most important financial decision I'm going to make in my lifetime. Think about it, folks. Think about it. You've been to a wedding, right? Right? What do they play as it's getting started? Right here, dun, da, da, here comes the bride. That's Mendelssohn. You know, that's real sweetness and light. And that's from Midsummer's Night's Dream, right? Beautiful, middle of the summer. And then in the middle of the service, they play a love song or a lullaby. But wait a minute. What happens after you've said I do or I will? And the officiant, the priest, the minister, the judge, whatever, says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. What do they play while you're walking out? Walking back down the aisle. You know what that's called? That's called the wedding march. That's Wagner. None of this Mendelssohn stuff. Wagner. Get out there. You two have work to do. March. Yeah. So now you cannot say, nobody warned me that marriage was going to be the most important financial decision that I've ever made. Slide number 45. The Millennials. This is from Fortune magazine back in 2007, but they really hit it well. Now, they call you Gen Y. The Generation Y, because there's Generation X, Y. I don't know. What's the next one? Z? I don't know. But I like Millennials better. They are ambitious, they are demanding, and they question everything. So if there is not a good reason for that long commute or late night, do not expect them to do it. When it comes to loyalty, the companies they work for are last on their list. Behind their families, behind their friends, behind their communities, their coworkers, and of course, themselves. But there are a whole lot of them, and as baby boomers begin to retire, triggering a worker shortage? Huh? Yeah, if all the boomers retired, we'd be in big trouble. What we're going to find later on is they're not retiring, so we'll see that later on at the end of the semester. As the baby boomers begin to retire, triggering a potential worker shortage, businesses are realizing that they may have no choice but to accommodate these curious millennials, these curious Gen Y creatures. Especially if they do not, the creatures will simply go home to their parents, who in all likelihood will welcome them back. Yes, they certainly are curious. I am the proud father of one, and he has very different views about work. They have very different views, the entire millennial generation, which the only thing that's constant is change, and we'll see how it all works out. But what I want to show you on slide 46 is that we are in the middle of a transition. We've done this before in the past, and we are transitioning. When humans started out, we were a hunting-gathering society. We then moved around 10,000 years ago in about 4 or 5 places around the earth into an agrarian society where we stopped following the movements of the animals and the plants and the like, and we settled down and built permanent structures and started tilling the land. And very quickly, we moved from the simple agrarian to the advanced agrarian. About 200 years or so ago, we began the transition from an advanced agrarian society to an industrial age. And about 60-70% of people used to work on the land, and now 2% work on the land. And in the industrial society, at the height of the industrial society, 60% of the people worked in the factories. Not anymore. We're moving down the same kind of situation. We are now down to around 10 or 11% in the industrial, working in the factories, and we expect it to drop another to 2% or so. And people will be working more with the information. They go by various names, the information age, the computer age, I don't know. There's really no good one word for it, but we're moving there, folks, the telecommunications age. I think the biotech is going to be, so what did we do? What happened? Well, people in the agrarian societies worked about, on average, 60 to 80 hours a week. Sometimes they worked more. That's why they call it a harvest moon. They worked 24 hours during the moon, when the moon was out, so they could harvest all the crops before they perished. And when we went to the industrial society, because there wasn't as much work for people, we moved to a 40-hour work week. And it didn't all happen just at once. One day we just decided. It took several decades to move there. And now, this has been predicted for decades, so that's not something that just all of a sudden pops into our consciousness. We expect that there will be far less work for people, and we should see the work week going down to 28, 30 hours a week. We don't know. It's been predicted for decades. It's starting to seem to come to pass, and much of it has to do with the millennials just not wanting to work many hours. And just not enough work to go around. So we'll see what happens. Oh, by the way, how many hours do traditional societies that still depend on the hunting and gathering model work? About 28 hours per week, about 4 hours a day. They have to work every day, and if they don't find any food, they have a big problem, but they would work a couple hours in the morning and then work a couple hours in the evening, and the other time you couldn't work. It was too darn hot. And yeah, it's taken us 10,000 years to hopefully get back to where we started from. But it was a much more precarious existence then, wasn't it? And aren't you worried, though? You have this nagging feeling that it's the Chinese that are going to take over, or the Indians, or the Latvians, or those foreigners that are taking all our jobs. It's not the case, folks. You say, yeah, they're moving manufacturing out of the United States, but they're moving it back into the United States, too, at the same time, if you can believe that. And the number of workers as a percentage in China who work in the industrial sector is actually shrinking. Why? Because of automation. So I want you to know, I want you not to worry about those foreigners, the Chinese, the Indians, and the people down in South America. I don't want it's one world. But as we speak, our agents are fanning out across the globe. and we will bring them to their knees. You see, it turns out that Asians and Africans, not Caucasians, and a lot of people in South America, because of the influence of the Asian genes on the folks in South America and the Hispanic, have a 10 times more likely predisposition for diabetes. Right, they have what's called the starvation gene. And we are replacing their diets with our kind of diets, and our lifestyles with their lifestyles with our lifestyles. And in 10 years to 15, 20 years, there should be 3 billion or so people with diabetes. We will bring them to their knees. There's already 200 to 300 million people around the world who have diabetes and don't even know it, and we'll discuss diabetes in more detail. You don't want diabetes. Who are these agents who are fanning across the globe, sowing the seeds of the foreigner's destruction? Slide number 47. Here they are, folks. You may have heard of them. Kentucky Fried Rat, Pizza Crap, Taco Smell, McMurderers. I love this slide. I just think it is. I especially love the one with the Texican Whopper sold in Mexico. They got the Texas, or wherever you had Bacaro, and then they got the Lucha Libre guy, and the Jack Daniels in Russia. Yeah, you take somebody from China out of the fields, put them in front of a computer, feed them Kentucky Fried Rat and Coca-Cola and Whoppers or Burr, whatever whatever they sell over there and what they're called there. I don't know what they're called there, but it turns out that in 10 years they'll be just as bad off as we are. So these are our secret weapons. Isn't it great? I think that's Sanskrit. I don't know. Anyway, slide number 48. I could not have said it better myself. This guy had it figured out 2,500 years ago, folks. Confucius. Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. I consider myself the luckiest guy in the world. I get up in the morning, and I just can't believe that I get to torture students, and they pay me to do it. I mean, what could be greater? So I wish for you to find a position in this world where you're doing exactly what you love to do, and you too will never work a day in your life. And don't forget the most important financial decision you'll make in this life. That is our discussion of Chapter 1, Financial Planning in Action. Now, make sure you've done the exercises for Chapter 1, the future value. Work on your goals. But our next chapter is probably the most important chapter with regard to financial planning documents. Because in this chapter, Chapter 2 on money management, we will create the 2 documents that are indispensable when looking at our financial life. These are the 2 documents that you're going to, especially the one, the cash flow, you're going to put on your refrigerator or put on your bureau or your desk drawer or put it on your bathroom mirror. It'll get all wet over there, I guess. You have to laminate it. Okay, so thank you very much for working hard, bringing honor and glory to Southwestern Community College, and we'll see you in Chapter 2 on money management.